Today, we get up close and personal with us at the Hashknife Ranch, where we see ourselves compared to everywhere else and how we look for the future. Welcome to Hashknife Hangouts. I'm Calen. The other guy is my co-host and father, Brandon. Got it on that one. All right. Like, comment, and subscribe. Also, if you want to check us out at Facebook, Instagram, Rumble, and Twitter, check out those handles below. For all of our returning viewers, thanks for coming back. And today's topic, our family ranch business. So I've got essentially bullets. I had a plan. The plan decided that I was just not going to do it because I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or maybe it was the right side of the bed, and I decided to change everything. I had a plan. I was going to do it. It was all set up, and it's even in the files that I'm looking at, and I'm just not going to use it. I decided to go hardcore to the left and went the other direction. So I've got a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It looks like a dozen questions for Dad, and it's supposed to be, hopefully, this is going to be more of a conversation because I was looking at how to make ranching profitable, and I have pulled so many different ideas. People provide. There's even an organization called Ranching for Profit. Something that I would love to attend one of their conferences. If anybody's ever seen the outcomes of those, there's a lot of people that have really gotten more into the understanding of their business better because they've asked pointed questions through those seminars, and it's helped them get even more. I guess the best way to think about it is they've scraped the fat off of some of the places where they realized they were maybe spending a little too much time or a little too much money, and it's kind of narrowed down their focus to making them more efficient. And because of that efficiency, they become more profitable, if that makes sense to anybody out there watching us. So what I wanted to do before we ever get to that conversation, we could maybe do that next week, or we'll do it sometime in the future. I wanted to get an idea on what I thought and Dad thought of us at the Hashknife, about us as a ranch, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, where we can improve, where we seem to be doing better than other people, maybe where we're not quite meeting the standard or catching everybody else, maybe our relation to a greater population, not just us locally, but regionally and potentially nationally. Just that's more of just a gut feeling and kind of seeing an analysis. There's no statistics for us to be able to actually assess that. So please don't think that we're coming up with numbers somewhere. And then maybe, what's the ultimate goal for us at the ranch as a business? And then what would be some of the steps to go with that? So before we get into the first question, I want to get Dad's take on what he might think about that.
Well, there's a lot there too, as normal. You normally do that, but I'm traveling around a good bit of the county right now, talking to a lot of people for a purpose, but I'm noticing some of them have flat said that they're restructuring. Others have done some things like sell all of their cows and take that resource and put it into development of pivots for producing hay.
Which, if we look at this from a business perspective, that's not unlike a lot of actual, large corporations throughout the United States, right, either. They're reassessing a lot of how they do their different businesses within their own industries.
Right. Well, and we're doing the same thing on a couple levels, and that is, we're starting to feed more animals for direct sales, and just starting that one. You want to do it right. I want a good quality product, and it's labor intensive right now. It's probably not as efficient as it could be, or maybe it is. I mean, we're doing some things that have been done in the past. Why reinvent the wheel? But always look to do something a little bit better while you're feeding animals out. So it's a restructuring on one end of that too. We're also looking at doing the same thing with water. We have always bought hay. Well, we used to dry land hay, but it's unpredictable. A lot of years wasn't great, old equipment, and it become more efficient for us to purchase hay and not try to hay some of the dry land ourselves. Well, that was true until 2 years ago, or last year, when fuel prices went up and it didn't rain. And it's kind of the same way. Guys are, they got a taste of some big money last year because they could, and they liked the taste this year.
And I had my own tirade on that one too. It was like, you're putting us out of business, and you're going to ultimately put yourself out of business, but whatever.
And I know some people that have been put out of business. I know another group that they sold the place. What are you going to do?
Right.
So, yeah, it's a difficult situation, but it's you're right when you say it's like the rest of corporate America. You have to stay viable, and you've got to stay in a spot where you can have some repeatability of what you're doing every year. And when you get to the point you can't, you're not producing anymore.
Right.
And so, or your production is way less. Now, as I've said before, we're really a very small ranch. I consider it a very small ranch. When you're maxed out at about 100 pair of cattle, that's that you can't go any larger without getting more ground. And I could do that with a lease and be able to run more, but there's not that much available. And other guys are leased up, and I don't want to truck cattle 100 miles to be able to have them eat some grass, because where's your there's a loss there with inefficiency. So being patient is another thing. I mean, we've been here over 100 years, so we'll hopefully be here another 100 years. But the technology changes, the way we do things, and I think going to some of these conferences, and I need to attend more of these myself. What have I not thought of?
Right. And
What has
that's
somebody else done that I can say, hey, that's a great idea. How can I implement that with a small tweak here or there?
and
Into
that's
what we
what
do.
that's what gets me so interested in like ranching for profit. And I know this is going to go down a rabbit hole, so I'm just going to put it right now. I've seen this organization multiple times on my Facebook feed and stuff like that, and I was like, wow, this some interesting concepts. Like, we already apply this, but the way in which they're explaining it is just like you said, a small tweak that was like that could be useful. And I've pitched some ideas to you and Mom. You're like, yeah, that is kind of something to think about, or a way that we could maybe reanalyze how we do something. And so, like, just little things like that. But I want to go to a conference because I think they're like 3 or 4 days long, and they'd be great, especially when I get out, when we could go together. But then there's also other things too, that this goes towards more of like a later question of, what are the things outside of our control. But I've seen things that people have brought up on Twitter that I thought was actually a very good point. We've never well, I shouldn't say never. We just haven't recently, or like probably the last 20 years, we haven't really been involved with a lot of like cattle industry organizations or anything like that,
Right.
where we could take our time instead of, somebody going to the Lions Club or the, I don't know, the American Legion or something like that, where you could be doing a community type service or something. That would be our community service, and also helping it's a self-interest to us and self-interest to other people like us, is being a part of those like cattlemen's associations, or at least attending some of those functions where we say, hey, this is what we're seeing, this is what we need to change as an industry, or we're going to fall under, and we're going to break completely. And I think that's where looking at ranching for profit, some of those other seminars, tweaking the idea, and then getting ourselves also involved is a huge step forward in paving the way for future generations as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we need to do that more. I get some periodicals, things like that, read, try to find some stuff, and I should do more. You can always do more, I think. But one of the things that's kind of, it's risky when you change your business, when things are working and you think, okay, we could maybe do better. You're going to have to invest some money into this, and you vet whether or not it's viable. Is this going to work? Are we going to get what we think out of it? And hope that it works. And I'm all for that, but that risk is there. That kind of holds you back sometimes too. It's like, okay, we're able to make it. We could make it better, but we can also lose,
Right.
worse. And that's with on your own volition. There are times when it's like, this isn't working. The bottom's falling out of the market. It's staying there. We've talked ad nauseum about the old Packer issue, and how that affects everybody. But there's sometimes you're forced to change, just like with the hay prices. I mean, we can only do this so long, and now we're forced to do something else. So it can work out well. One's forced, one's not so forced, or it's you're just trying to do better. But the risk is still there. The risk is that I can try this, I can do this, and I'm going to lose it faster than I would because I can see it's going down, or I can make it better, but man, I'm not sure it's going to make it better. And, I talked to a guy just yesterday that he put up a couple pivots. He sold all his cows, couldn't feed them,
Yep.
and put up 2 very small pivots. I think he's probably only got, I would guess 140 acres under pivot, and all's well and good. Couldn't afford the fertilizer because the fertilizer came up, price just
Yeah, it's been priced this year.
skyrocketed. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's because we're talking fossil fuel prices with where our administration is taking us. Couldn't afford to get the fertilizer on there that he really needed, and then got half the water that he should have had on it. And I've been watching his, as I drive by at times, I've been watching him and thinking, man, this is a good for him. I'm glad he's doing this. He's got some water rights, but you know what? Everybody else has water rights too. And if that water's not there, everybody gets cut back. And he told me he had half the water he needed. And I did see those pivots idle a lot. I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? And he had some other, some startup type issues where the ground's got a lot of gumbo in it. So he's got to change how he does because he gets stuck. Now you may have to put tracks on it, a lot of issues to get through. But if the water's not there, you can't turn those wheels or get them stuck anyway. So hard time, big decision, put some money into it. And like I told him, man, I know we always say this, but I hope next year's better. I hope next year you got the water you need, and because you want people to succeed. You don't want to see them fail. I mean, we're not in competition. We're in a co-op type competition where we hope everybody does well at the same time. If we do, everybody wins. And it's tough. I can just feel the stress there for him, and I feel it for ourselves.
What you're talking about too is something that, to me, there's a delicate balance, and that's what you're kind of alluding to without saying it, is the delicate balance of being reactive and being proactive.
Yes.
Because things are going well and you see where you can do better, and you want to be slightly proactive, but not so much that you hurt yourself, right? You might, test the idea a little bit or what you want to do and see how it works out. If it works out, great, you start running with it. If not, you kind of hold it back. Then there's also the reactive part, which is what you're talking about with the water and the markets last year. We talked about it a lot in 2021 of the markets because of the Packer issue. We haven't done so as much this year because, I mean, frankly, it hasn't been the talk of the town. It's been mostly drought that's been the talk of the town. And when I say that, it means like the agriculture industry in general. But there's that delicate balance of, okay, we were reactive to hay because hay just didn't really work out for us. So it was for us more proactive to just say, hey, cut it. Let's stop doing that. Let's purchase. And then now it's back to reactionary again, where, okay, we can't get enough hay because the drought for the last 2 years in our region and in the northwestern region of the United States, that is. And then now we're going back to, okay, maybe we can try and be a little proactive in that reaction by doing something on our own. And then of course the cattle market's just been straight up reactionary. I have nothing to say about that, but that's that shift between, looking at where you can be efficient and whatnot, but then also the, like you said, the teeter totter of always balancing proactive from reactive.
Well, and the part to that is a difference for us is we could be going back to building our own hay.
Yeah.
But it would be more sustainable because if, we wouldn't depend on a river. We'd have to sink a well, and which is expensive. And it's, we got a well out here. We know we got water under here. It's just how much do we have, and is it going to be good enough to do what we want to do? So instead of dry land, now we've got water under irrigation, and that is a huge infrastructure cost. And I think we would probably sell the hay, but everybody else is selling hay. Some of them are doing the same thing that we've been talking about doing. So your market fluctuates or changes, and you hope that you can do some specialty hay, because it seems like there's always people that have horses that want hay, and they want small squares that are hard to handle or a pain in the butt. But you can get a premium for those. And when I say premium, then I'm talking like the guy who smells an opportunity to have that taste of profit, that it's going to make their year. And it's not, hopefully not what I'm doing, but enough to make it, you know, payable, or that we're not losing money on it, so that we can then gear back up and be able to, you know, pick up, you know, have a few more cows to feed, or change the other side of our restructuring and what we're doing. It really is a restructure, being able to feed more cattle out for direct sales. And, you know, everybody's doing that too. So
There's a reason. It's
there's a
reactionary.
reason. It's reactionary. Absolutely right. It's reactionary. And people got to eat. The problem with it is, and when we are doing something a little bit different than some, I think, that's the size of our butcher cattle. We're butchering them kind of the law, or the younger end, you know, that 18 to 24 month, instead of going another year or half a year. And that way it's more affordable for people, because you're buying rail weight. Well, the longer they go, the bigger they get, the more it costs you. And if you can do that, keep that cost a little bit low, we're still putting some of the same finish feed in them that we would something older, but it's more affordable. We're trying to make it affordable for people that can do that. And so we're trying to make our own little niche there, and see how that works.
Now that kind of set up our ranch situation, which is crazy. That took a lot longer than I thought it would, but it's okay. The two questions that I want to start off with is, what do you think makes us unique? And then what would be your goal to see for the end of your life for the ranch?
I you know, I don't know that we really are that unique. We're small. That's not unique. There's people that are smaller than us that we don't have any open water here. We've got some leased ground that's got some springs, but nothing that you could irrigate from. The uniqueness, if you look at it that way, is not necessarily unique. It is to us, is that we've got water underground. And if we can pump that up, then that helps us. And so there are some people that they flat don't have the water, or the water's not good. So, you know, that's usually a larger operation where it takes that kind of ground to run a cow. So, you know, they've got the acreage, and their limit is their water, whether it's surface water to be able to feed with, or water with, you know, keep something alive. And then they feed a large area. You know, you may take 40, 50 acres for a pair to be able to sustain them. So we've got good ground, we've got good water. We just got to bring it to the surface, is maybe our uniqueness, but it's not that unique either. I mean, there's a lot of other people doing the same thing. You know, we're not necessarily trying to make it solely on this. I mean, we're very fortunate in one way. When the place isn't big enough to take care of everybody, you know, as a long-term, never leave the ranch, you have to go out and you got to do something else. And so you've really diversified your income when you do that. So, you know, went out and tried to make a fortune, and probably didn't do that. Like, you know, I didn't go into the stock market and, you know, become some kind of a mogul by any means. You know, just took a decent, steady, good job that now I'm able to, was able to save some money on, and invest, and try to have a small retirement. That helps. That takes care of your everyday stuff, you know, your food, your lights, fuel, personal stuff that you're not using the ranch resources to supply that. So that's kind of a uniqueness in itself. And we all kind of do that to a point. You know, you've chosen the route as a service, and you're getting your master's degree. Your brother's a wildland firefighter, you know, got his range management degree. That all these things are going to help here, but we've diversified, basically, not with necessarily the ranch, but with our effort to support the ranch. So that might be a little bit different than some others too.
The what would be your goal for it?
More land, baby. You know, you always want to have a little bit bigger place that you can have a little bit more resources to have a little bit more variety of what you want to do. And it isn't like my grandpa used to joke about the neighbors. He said, yeah, they don't want to own everything, only that stuff that borders them. You know, so you can get that way too, but you know, there's some risk in that as well. You can lose it all. I don't want to encumber the place to where you could lose it. And so what our plan is, it's very slow, it's very deliberate, but you know what? Slow and steady wins the race. be able to have it. I would love to have this place big enough that you wouldn't have to leave it to be able to make it sustainable
Right.
and profitable for somebody to stay here full time and never go out. But you know, it didn't hurt me to run out, get a job or get an education, get some jobs. I've got some perspective outside of this that I can bring to it. But you know, you lose some lifestyle, and I kind of envy some of the people that were able to stay home. They went and got an education too, but then they come home and put it to work on their place. You know, some business degrees, things like that, range management. But they didn't have to go away. So there's benefits both ways. I feel like I was able to do some stuff to help you guys get through college and on a small place because of the diversity. So it's about trying to grow it and hopefully you can grow it so it's sustainable for your kids and grandkids and great grandkids and keep a legacy going.
The sustainability part on its own, I think I completely agree with. Because now, okay, let me try and answer the uniqueness part. I think the only thing unique about us right now is we are a more, I would say, a more serious social media platform for farming and ranching. I see a lot of farming and ranching because I keep looking for other ones to kind of emulate, see how they're doing well, because this is potentially another revenue source for us, right? If we're being real and honest about how business works. So, you know, we've made a few dollars since we've been monetized a couple months ago. And by a few dollars, I literally mean just a few. Like as of today, we made $170.
Hey, your mom and I can go have a really nice dinner somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. After almost 2 full years of work on YouTube, we finally made $170 as of the 18th of September of 2022, right?
But let's be honest, we didn't start out to do it. We started out as an educational thing. Let's help people understand where we're at. And it's just because it's grown a little bit, the opportunity is there to monetize. So that's kind of a structure change in its well, not really for that purpose, but it just helps us a little bit. Helps us pay for some equipment that we've, like these microphones and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, and that ultimately that'd be the awesome. So the awesomest part of it is if we could start making enough revenue to, hey, you know what projects we can source now?
Right.
You know, that'd be really cool. But I've noticed we are a more serious channel, but we also tend to be, I would say, less filtered. And my goal with that is for us to become even less filtered, where we can do some live streams and stuff where people can see what we're doing from like a barn cam, kind of like how our partners in Dunroven are, and see, oh, hey, you know, this is what they're doing today. And you can just watch and see when mom gets angry and yells at us for
for no reason at all.
Yeah. And you can see those things. And then you can also see the
she never yells.
She screamed
only at the pug when he won't do what she wants.
She did it to me and you during branding. Anyway,
but
you know, there's some
We're
times
married.
where
I don't have to.
I didn't hear that. There's some things that, you know, I would like people to see, that, you know, more and more real life stuff. And we try to take some of the more serious things, and we have made them into videos where people can see. For example, one will be coming out in a couple weeks about a calf that died, and it's very real. Unfortunately, while it's informative, that's not monetized because of the gore. YouTube will not allow it to be monetized, and that's fine. But our point was, we want people to see these are the things that we deal with. These are the things that all farmers and ranchers deal with, and not everybody shows you that. And we want to show you that so you can see, you know, this animal did kind of mean something to us for a reason, and you'll find out. But at the same time, it was going to be a butcher animal. You know, we saw it as a different reason. Right. And it still goes into our pocketbook and so on and so forth. So that's what I think is more unique to us. We're more upfront about a lot of things, but that's still yet to be. It's going to be a whole lot better when I'm in Montana and I'm directing 24/7. Don't you worry. Anyway.
See, and that's kind of what you're doing. For those that haven't already figured this out, Calen kind of runs this thing. And I don't. I'm
digital stuff. Sometimes
I'm just the face that belongs on radio, not TV, you know. So
you want to talk about hold on a second. You want to talk about the back part, the behind the scenes part? You want to tell them my tirade via text yesterday? I was so upset with the Google thing.
Okay. Well, we've recently since we moved up here, I got a notice yesterday morning on my phone that said Hashknife Ranch. So I
Like
thought, what
6
the
a.m.
heck?
your time.
Yeah. And I open it up and it shows our old address, not the ranch address, but where we were
Mhm.
at Shepherd. And it says business permanently closed. And I'm like, no, we're not. We've just moved.
Yeah,
And Calen has been trying to fix this for months.
like
And
3.
yeah, and Google is not, Google's evil. Let's face
There's a
it.
lot of things that
Oh,
Google has provided for
God.
us because I can use the drive and things to enable all this. But when it comes to moving the move was so fast, this was an afterthought. And now
Yeah.
that it was an afterthought, we can't just go back to the house and get on the phone call and get a like that's the thing. It's giving me two options: either the physical landline that was provided or via mail. I've tried to get it done via mail multiple times, and I give it to the post office. I think they're doing the right thing. They're seeing it. They're thinking it's junk mail and they're tossing it. But I need that. And
Yeah.
very frustrated. Still working on it. Anyway, yeah, digital stuff. That's me. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm
Yeah.
not great, but I'm working on it.
Well, my
But
point to
now,
that was I don't watch other stuff much.
yeah.
I sure don't. I don't research it. I'm not doing like you are, but something will come up and I'll see it, and a lot of it's fun, funny, or
Mhm.
like, oh God,
Entertaining
this
for
happened.
sure.
Entertaining is some kind of entertainment, yeah. And we're trying to be more educational, informative about that, and hopefully there's some entertainment in there as well. But yeah, I didn't realize that we were more of a serious platform compared to others like that. I thought there were
Oh
others
yeah.
probably like us.
Not
Okay.
it's not even close. I think partly though, because when we talk on a regular basis, this is the business part, right? Like
Right.
we're talking. They are oftentimes together so they can get those bloopers and things where
Yeah.
it's difficult for us here. Like when Greg and Bert were there and we just had the kind of the thing rolling, there were a
Yeah.
couple of good jokes in there that we were able to
Right.
kind of throw in, and it's great. But
Sure.
when you don't have the literally the time to do that, it's harder to do it because we have more of the, hey, let's
It's
get
more
down to
structured.
business front. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Has
Um,
to be.
especially with the time differences, that makes a difference too.
Yeah.
But my ultimate goal was, like you said, the sustainability part. I would like to see more sustainability in terms of if we can't get bigger physically, we get bigger business wise. And
Right.
that in that regard, be more like, hey, we can produce a lot of our hay, we can send it out, we can ship it, we can do more agritourism stuff where we're getting
Mhm.
passive income where people come in, they can stay for a little bit, they can enjoy an experience and they pay us to do that. Things like that where structurally we get bigger, but not necessarily physically, because like you said, we don't want to overextend ourselves and then we're
Yeah.
beholden to somebody or some bank. And that's where I
Right.
don't want it. But I think we're on that track. We're constantly talking about different ideas. I'm the weirdo with really out there things, and then Dad goes, "Whoa, reel it back there, killer." So yeah, that's a lot of
That ain't
us.
gonna work, Bull. That ain't
Oh
gonna work,
gosh,
Bull.
I can be stubborn. Yeah. So all right, next one I'll throw in there is, what do you think we're doing right? What are we doing wrong?
If I if I if I if I knew that, um, I'm more of a deliberate person. I study things. It drives your mother nuts that I just don't make snap judgments. I want I want more data. I need more input. I need more evaluation.
Mhm.
And so I probably move slower that way when I shouldn't, because I'm scared to death and I'm going to overdo it and we'll lose everything.
Yeah,
So
and something that I've seen recently too that has helped me kind of with that mindset, because I'm very similar in that regard. That's why I love YouTube analytics, because I'm constantly going over that stuff. Somebody said that him and his brother are business partners, and they said their motto is shoot first, aim second. And so what they do with their business is they know there's an opportunity and they'll just go for it and they'll hit the target, and they're like, at least we hit the target.
yeah,
Now let's dial her in. And that's where they I guess they've made multiple businesses that way, and they've had a couple fail, but they said
sure.
because of that mentality and the quality in which they do it, they'll say, oh, this is the direction we want to go, and they execute, and then they'll hit like upper left, but then they'll start bringing it back towards that bullseye. They said because of
Yeah.
that has helped them.
Well, and that's not unlike one of my former life where I was controlling part of a refinery from a console of
Yeah.
a semicircle full of computers. I believe it or not, I mean I did that. and teach others. And one of the things I learned early on, sometimes you'd have an emergency. And it is so overwhelming to begin with. I'd see guys, they'd freeze up. They didn't know what to do. And I did the same thing early on. Like, oh my God, what do I do? And what I learned was pick something, looks most important, and make a move. And when you do that, you will start to get your mind engaged. Okay, this is what's going to happen. And even if it's a wrong move, correct it and fix it and go to something else. And you'll come out okay. So it's kind of the same thing where I understand that. Shoot, dial it in. And it's the same thing with that. And I would teach guys the same thing. I don't care what you do, try to make the right move. But if you make the wrong move, see what you've done, correct it, and then move on. And you'll start problem solving. You'll bring that thing in, rein it in very quickly. So it just seems to me like there's more at stake. So I try to be better about it. Your mom's very good about it. She's really good about, hey, we need to do this. Okay. And then I will rein her in. She goes, no, you got to do this. Think about this. And, I think we complement each other pretty well that way where we do that. So I think that's one of the things I do wrong. I need to be better at. I'm running out of time. I'm not getting any younger. So, hopefully you can get things set up to where we are headed down a different road or several. We've got about three different things to restructure, 4 different things to restructure that we're doing on our own place. And I think that's the right thing to do. I don't want to get into them too much other than, the water and agritourism, maybe the more direct sales on cattle, that kind of stuff. So,
and it's interesting too, because we're also taking advantage of opportunities. And I think that's also the other thing too, something I'm actually learning in class right now. Have a plan for, this is what my ultimate goal is. And then if an opportunity arises and you recognize that's towards a goal anyway, take it. Like what's going to hurt it? Because we've got one sort of opportunity that's going to be coming up in probably the next couple of weeks. And then one for sure, that's very serious. I wouldn't say for sure, but very serious about coming and visiting us during branding, which is also another opportunity towards what we wanted to do anyway. And these are awesome for us chances to test what we want to do, what we can do better, because this, in our sense, is like a rehearsal for something. So if we see something go wrong, okay, we can adjust that and we can still make a little bit of money while we're doing it, or at least compensate us for our time in terms of, we come out even. And I think that's kind of where the benefit of that is as well.
Yeah. So, we are practicing what I'd like to be better at. So, we're doing that. So it's a change, but anytime you do anything differently than what you've been doing, or you think differently, it can be a little painful, a little uneasy. You jump outside that comfort zone of, even though it's not working, God, it's comfortable not working. So you have to,
I know it's not working. I don't know if it's not working on the other side.
Right. So I think those are some things that we're doing wrong and right. Being able to recognize those things and capitalize on them. That's the big thing.
Yeah. The other part is, I guess, where do you think we stand with like other ranches? And that's not just nearby, because you said you've been driving around, seeing a lot of other places, kind of watching what other people are doing. They're either struggling or they're making it work for now. I guess kind of a two-parter is, what do you think we kind of look like in our region, maybe even our part of the state, South Central Montana? And then where do you think we probably stand in relationship to a lot of other ranchers in the Western United States as well?
Locally here, we're hanging on by our fingernails like everybody else is. I don't think anybody is really doing extremely well. I think we're all in the same boat there. There are some other really big outfits that they diversify, but they're running ranches. They have several ranches, large ones, but they're also supplementing them with owning some stockyards. So they're being kind of part of the middleman on that too, and they're very good at it. Don't take that away. And why a lot of people, they tend to be upset with them or mad at them, but you know what? They're doing the best they can too, and they've just got some skills that they've done, and good for them. So outside of that, anybody else that hasn't had that diversity of skill, I think we're right there with them similarly, and they're trying to do things differently. Everybody's trying to change to be able to stay alive. And outside of this area, I can only speculate on how others are doing in other states. And some states, like Nebraska last year, for instance, man, they were really good with hay. We brought hay out of Nebraska. This year, they're in trouble in some of the same areas that we were dealing with last year. So Texas they're in a tough spot. Arizona, Nevada. I mean, this whole western part of the U.S. it's got, for the most part, in some serious trouble.
Texas is interesting too, because it's a lot like Montana. There's so many regions in Texas.
Right.
I would say there's at least 3 or 4 separate regions in Texas. Knowing a certain individual on Twitter, they're in they're like the tip south of Texas. Like they are on the border, and they've got a pretty big
area.
I don't know where exactly, they won't discuss, because they have so many issues with illegals.
Right.
That if for safety reasons and cartel reasons, they will not say where they are. If anybody knows them, they know their region, but I happen to know that they're just in the very southern tip of Texas.
Okay.
They've shown some stuff on there as well that they had grass up to the size of literally the ribs of their cows, just super tall, nutritional. And they said, hey, we haven't had the problems that the rest of Texas have, because we're so close to the river. We've got, good weather, and we've just been fortunate. On the flip side, there have been other Texas ranchers in that region that I've seen on like TikTok that absolutely just come after people like us who buy hay, and they're like, you're stupid for doing this. I can't believe you would ever waste reasons or waste money on hay. The only reason you should be doing it is to supplement for nutrition for like feed out, and if you're just a stupid rancher because you put them on the wrong type of ground. And then other people came back at him. They're like, dude, you're an idiot. You clearly have never been to the northern part of the hemisphere where there's snow. Like, we physically cannot use the ground. And I'll even throw a history fact in there. Texans did that exact same thing that he's talking about in the 1880s, and they lost thousands of animals in northwestern and northeastern Montana because of that. I'm like, you know what, dude, you keep doing that in your area, that's fine, but don't tell other people how to do it, because you're just reassessing the wrong way. So I think there's some, like you said, there's people that are doing all right with the ground and stuff, and obviously the size of the operation, the efficiency, but here's depends on where you're at and what you're facing as well.
If you've got a guy like that might work for their area,
right?
But you have to keep an open mind. You can't shut down, because he might learn something from some of us.
Yeah.
Who knows, if he took a little small spot and hayed that, he may be doing something a little bit different, or change the way they do. He might increase his sustainability and profitability by a lot. But if you just say, this is not the way you do it, I don't know how you do it. Got to keep an open mind, and you got to try different things. And I try to ask a lot of questions, and I may seem like I'm really like green at this. And there are some things that I don't know about. It's been a while since we've never pivot irrigated. So that'll be a learner for me. I've always flood irrigated, because that's what we had. We had the water, we had the river, and it wasn't fancy. It was literally moving dikes and using siphons, and it was labor intensive. So, it'll be different, and I want to know as much as I can before I do it.
Well, and with regard to like his point about the feed, it's the equivalent of us telling Texans during Snowmageddon that they don't know how to calve.
Right.
Because they're calving for the first time in the winter. Like, why would you expect them to calve in the winter? They don't normally have to deal with this issue. So I think it's the same principle. Ask somebody, hey, I've never experienced this before. What happens?
Their winter, their winter, we still wear, maybe a vest at the most.
At the most.
Yeah, at the most. I mean, it's shirt sleeve weather all the time for us. Of course, in the summertime, they're crawling under rocks with Gila monsters trying to cool off. But
Nope. Because you also get snakes with that weather, and I don't like it.
Yeah. Well, we have snakes here, but not like that, I don't think.
All right. So another thing is we talked about what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. You already talked about reactionary versus proactive and so on and so forth. What are some things that you think that we could change on the ranch to be more efficient?
Oh, we already try to do that as much as possible. Sometimes just the mobility of what we do. Fuel costs are incredible. If we could cut fuel costs even a little bit more, the efficiency there, some of the things, supplemental things we do, we're starting to rehab that garden. I mean, why not? It's there. It's something we can do, and that is not necessarily ranch related, but it's certainly consumer related on our part, that ranch dollars could take to, not be spent somewhere else.
Mhm.
Fencing, you got to maintain your fences, and that's a cost, that's an outlay, and trying to get those done right, and so you don't have to do them again
Yeah.
is another big deal.
I pretty much
You
spent
know,
my entire childhood redoing a bunch of fences that were put in by a World War II vet who really didn't care.
well, and some of those fences were his grandpa's fences,
They were just
so
atrocious.
yeah, mom and I did the one fence. It was well, there were two wires that were buried into the dirt that had eroded from
Yeah.
other places across the road. So I
I
know
I
you've been
did the
on that
same
too.
thing.
Yeah,
I've done that. I've done the same thing. Probably not the same stretch of fence, I guarantee, but I
yeah,
did the same thing.
yeah. But no, it's I think trying to develop water better and do that is a major thing. Um, God, efficiency. You think you've gotten everything as efficient as possible, but you can always tighten it up when you see something. And again, it's about not being quite as wasteful, and I think we're not, but just every step you make, trying to make the right decision.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
know that's not really an answer, but it's, I mean, we're already trying to be, I know we're much more efficient than we used to be. Uh, and so just trying
And
to increase
well,
that, maybe
that
marketability, being marketable and pushing that a little bit more. We've done that. Haven't even talked about our horses. We've just talked about the cattle
right.
side of this.
I
And
don't know. The marketability thing kind of worries me because yes, we could be more marketable. Any business will say that.
yeah,
But there's also the part of it's the deliberate process that you talked about, where if we get too marketable, then we get this massive demand that you've talked about before also, where people
right.
start saying, "Hey, do you have this? Do you have that?" Like our horses, a great example. Our horses the last 5 years have been not that many available for sale. And we
Right.
constantly get asked, "Hey, do you have horses for sale?" Listen, there's certain people who follow us and they follow us closely and they know when our foals drop. And as soon as one hits the ground and they know it's breathing and it's going to be fine, they put money down on that thing. And so it's hard to keep telling people year after year after year if they're not paying attention like some of those devoted followers are. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, like we had two this year, but they were spoken for within 30 days.
Right.
And people just don't understand that. And then after a while, they're like, "Yeah, I've went to the Hashknife crew multiple times. I just can't get a horse." And like, I can't blame them, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like for us, we want to be more marketable, but it's like it's almost that double-edged sword in a sense. Cause then ultimately we get to the point where like I try and talk to these guys all the time and they never come through. They don't ever have a product for me. So why waste my
Well,
time when I could go somewhere else?
yeah, I think what's happened is we did a really good job of marketing early on, and we're
Yeah.
reaping the rewards of that. That our demand
Yeah.
is higher than our supply. In fact, in some of my travels here as of late, talking to a lot of community members, I've had a number of them ask me if I've got horses. And
See.
one of them very yesterday he said, "Hey, to switch subjects on you, I know that's not why you're here, but do you have a good horse, well trained, ranch ready, that's affordable?" And I said, "You do know you're looking for, I mean, we don't raise them where they got these little cones sticking out of their head there.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking for a unicorn there." And I said, "We try to keep them as affordable as possible, but um,
We raised our prices
we've
because
raised,
everybody else is we had
well,
to.
yeah, we had to, because it costs more." And that's what I told him. I said, it costs more for us to raise them and then our time into them, that, um, we're not making that much money on them. You know, you'd think it's huge, but it's not. And then I've had others saying, "Hey, can you train these horses for me?" It's like, sorry, I can't, you know. And so it's, I mean, our marketing there is done well. and because of that, we're constantly getting asked. The phone calls never stop, which is good, but you wish you had a product. You're exactly right. Pretty soon people will quit calling. The thing of it is our product is renewable. It isn't like, you know, we're not continuing to raise horses. So that part's good.
Where was I going with that? I had something else. Okay. Yeah, that's good enough. Last question. Talking about our goal. I know you said you wanted to kind of get us bigger, definitely self-sustaining. What's the next step or the series of steps that we are putting in place and taking advantage of to get towards that goal?
Well, I think you and your brother need to find a couple wives, give us some grandkids, so we have some slave labor. How's that?
That is a horrible business approach. You're banking on some blind lady.
Oh, well,
it's still gonna be attractive to me.
Well, I got one that's got low standards and myopia. I mean, so hey,
low standards. That's the key right there. I need low standards for sure.
Yeah, no, it's about being able to make it so that it's viable for generations later on, you know. And I don't know what else to say. It's about that. It's passing this on so that it's sustainable and usable, and for others that it doesn't create a huge burden. One of the things that your mom and I have taken on is there's a lot of things that weren't done here because the ability wasn't there.
Like you're talking about, like mostly physical ability.
Yeah, look at the whole corral systems.
Yeah,
we, you know,
completely restructured. That's something I wish we could have had the foresight to take pictures and like maybe overhead footage prior to. Knowing what it was when I was a kid to what it is now is just absolutely night and day, and it's not even close.
Yeah. And I've had people walk in here and go, "Oh my God, I love these corrals. I wish we had these." Which it makes you feel good because, you know, and they work for us. I mean, they're not huge, but they work for us. So when we're able to use them and keep an animal on grass if we want, and feed them out at the same time. So you got a grass fat, grain finished animal, a small number of them, in order to hit that niche as well. And then we can use them for our horses. We use them for the major stuff. That's been a big win, you know. So we've put a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money into corrals, fencing, that kind of stuff, and we need to put in a couple more wells.
So what I'm hearing, the answer is the steps towards some of that sustainability goal is putting in place things that are going to last a long time.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
They're quality that will last a long time.
Well, and you've heard me. I've said this, you know, to your mother.
It's a running joke in the family at this point.
It kind of is. It's like, well, our grandkids won't have to replace this.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. You know, I mean, that goes a long ways to sustainability on any business when you don't have to put more money into infrastructure for a very long time.
And people might be asking too, like, well, what exactly are you talking about? Well, if you're not familiar with any of our videos, a lot of the corrals are now, they're steel, just straight steel panel, a lot of it. And that's to be durable against the horses kind of, but mostly against the cows because they push and everything. Especially when they all get crowded, they really put a lot of pressure on it, right? I mean, you're looking at a 1,200-pound animal, multiply that by 100, and suddenly you've got some pressure. Then a lot of those bigger main poles they're sunk deep into the ground, and they've got concrete reinforcement to keep them solidified. Then you look at that, we've got our spring trough set up where now at this point it's probably 30 feet out from where it first intakes into the main trough. It's PVC pipe, so it's like a polymer flexible pipe that's not going to easily get broken, and that feeds
poly pipe.
It feeds directly into a old used tractor tire that then fills up to a point where it then goes into an outflow of another pipe because it's been held up, and once it hits it just pours in, of another polymer pipe that goes down to a second follow-on trough that gets filled up through the same flow of natural spring water that goes through. And so these are all small projects that have been added over a decade or more, and they've become more and more efficient with that. I mean, you start looking at things like that, the cost of that tire, what it was then has now reduced to, you think about it, a couple dollars for a day, is what the
Yeah.
cost of it is, and you think about
Right.
that, that's going to last a lot longer too.
Yeah, that thing will outlive me, probably outlive you,
I hope it
with
does,
any
because I
luck.
don't want to move
Yeah,
that thing.
right. Well, and if you do, you gotta tear everything out and redo it. Like,
Well, that's the other thing too, is because everything is so quality, we're gonna have to tear out a lot of stuff to fix that if it
yeah.
goes out.
The one thing I've always done is whenever, and I think that one of the things I've done right is whenever you build something, whenever you do something, don't half-ass it.
Yeah.
I'll spend the extra money that it takes to do it right. And you don't have to redo it, overdo it. If I have something that's gone horribly wrong and it's good. We haven't spent money on corrals outside of replacing a few gates or
Right.
updating the gates. A round corral, I need to get some lodgepole pine to redo that. I don't like pipe on a
Yeah,
round
just
corral. I like wood.
too many causes for injury on that.
Yeah. So, there's a few things like that, but those, I'll bet you those poles are 15, 20 years old on that corral. So it's that's kind of a wearable item, I guess you would say, or consumable, because they tend to rot more than anything else with what water we do get over that many years. But yeah, we've done some good things that way. We've done it and done it right so that it lasts. It doesn't, we're not redoing it in 5, 10 years. Because you're just throwing good money after bad. And by the time you've redone it twice, now you've spent more money than if you'd had just done it right the first time. And
Invaluable time that
invaluable time.
you've just straight wasted at that point.
Yeah.
But
So I mean, those are some good things, and I tend to spend more than I should doing that. That used to drive your grandpa nuts, that he wouldn't spend the money on it and I would. Of course, he didn't mind me spending money as long as it was me spending the
your
money, not
pocket.
him. That's right. So that was kind of a joke between us two. But doing it right, it's important.
Yeah. That's pretty much it for us. That's kind of what we look at ourselves with the family business, the range business, how we kind of fit into everything, what we're doing to improve. And I'm sure, I have no doubt, there are a lot of other family owned, operated ranches and farms that have very similar conversations and very
Oh,
similar
yeah.
ideas. They're approaching it in a different way. That's it.
Well,
So yeah, with that, I'll give it to you.
yeah, and it's prioritizing it. What can you do first? What's the most important thing to do? And and we always prioritize, hopefully those that are watching us for this last little bit, that our priority to you is a thank you till you're better paid.